Relatively recent entries into the Doctor Who podcast field. I can see one of the more experienced podcasters all the way out in the audience, all around me. How many of you here are not podcasters? Right? Show your hand. Oh, that's not
I've got quite a few hands up.
Introduce ourselves, starting this way and there. Just say your name and what podcast you're part of.
I am Denise Bagley, and I am from Little Finish Podcast.
And I'm Jay Duran. I'm from the Untipped Schism podcast.
And I'm Laura Simpson, and I'm from the Ootcast.
I'm John O'Connor. I'm from the Mutter Spiral podcast.
I'm Paul Heath, and I'm one of the three dirty little buggers that does the Pharaoh's Work.
I'm Lewis Bailey, and I represent the Happiness Patrol.
Let's start, perhaps also in that same order, but how we all got into this game of podcasting.
How Little Finish started, I was talking to Liz, one of my co-hosts, and as things happened, we ended up talking about Big Finish, and I was looking on the internet just as we were talking, you know, and I saw like an advertisement for some other podcast. I can't remember what one it is now, and I just suggested to her, I said, we should have a Big Finish podcast. And then all of a sudden we were, well, what would we name our podcast? Well, how would we record our podcast? And then like 2 weeks later, we had a podcast.
Oh, well, let's see. I've been listening to podcasts for a while, and I always kind of thought, yeah, I'd never really have the guts to do a podcast myself. And then some other people that we knew kind of got into doing that, but they didn't seem to keep to a very good release schedule. And I got talking with my co-host, Fox, who's sitting in the audience there. And we decided, yeah, we're going to do one, and we came up and figured out what we were going to do, and we've been keeping to a pretty good schedule ever since.
Well, I really like David Tennant's hair.
Nice, though.
Frankly, most other parts of his anatomy. So that's quite interesting to me. And then, my lovely fiancé, stand up and give him a wave. This is Chris Sinker. He is a very, very long-standing Doctor Who fan, and I'm mainly interested in David Tennant's hair. He decided that he would do a podcast. So he and his two mates who'd been writing a blog about Doctor Who all got together and sat in the front room, and they set up 3 mics. And then they wanted me to make tea for them. I said, stop that. If you're going to be doing it, I want to have some of this as well. So I went and made them set me up a mic, and then I got involved too, and I never looked back.
Hard to follow that one. No, my friend Will and I talk about Doctor Who all the time. That's how we became friends, actually, was bonding over it. And I moved away to the center of California, in the middle of nowhere, and we continued to talk about Doctor Who. We realized, well, you know, we're really getting in depth on these things, and why don't we do that in a format that maybe other people might find interesting, and we flattered ourselves that that might be the case. So we hooked up Skype, we hooked up some recording software, and away we went. And it was actually kind of fun learning how the whole process worked.
Right, basically we used to drink in a place called the Fitzroy Tavern in London.
Yes.
First Thursday of every month, there's a massive Doctor Who meet, and me and my friend Chris were in there having a drink, and we suddenly realised we were the only 2 people in the pub that didn't have a podcast. So basically we did it just to fit in. Perhaps I could talk to them. Podcasters, they only talk to podcasters, you know? So that's why we started.
Wow. That's so sad. You know, it's a sad little group, isn't it?
Oh, God.
Yeah, but anyway, the Happiness Patrol, what was the question again?
How'd you start? Yeah.
Oh, okay. we got a little, well, I was out late last night, quite honestly. But honestly, not only am I a podcaster and been in radio and TV for a long time, I also build TARDISes. And there is a forum called the TARDIS Rebuilders Forum where I met a couple other people, and most of them were Brits, you know, building TARDISes. But there was one young lady who was an American, and her name was Tara Wheeler, and we got talking like, you know, hey, what the hell is Perspex? And she goes, oh, they're just talking about plexiglass. You can get that at Lowe's. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So so we started talking and everything, and we went to Galley, and we met, and we started thinking like, you know what? I would really like to talk to everybody, you know, more other than just Galley. And so we decided to get Skype and started talking. And our friend Dale, who's in Brighton, joined us too. And he's got a TARDIS in his living room. Tara's got a TARDIS in her living room. And well, I have a little pink TARDIS right now. But I'm building my second TARDIS in Orlando, Florida. So we just started Skyping, and we had our friend Leela, who was a New Who fan. I like to call her a New Who fan because she's like only 19. And she likes David Tennant. I think she likes his hair.
Is there anybody in here who doesn't like David Tennant's hair?
I don't believe it.
So we
Are there other options?
There are other options. So, but what happened is we all live in different time zones, you know, and so we started Skyping, and we had to set our schedule, and we got a little help from our great, wise old podfather, Mr. Louis Trapani, and of Doctor Who Podshot, so big fan there. And he helped us out and got us going. And we've just been Skyping and doing a weekly podcast ever since.
Because you've been here for over. I mean, you were doing. I mean, most of you guys started up within the past year, I'm assuming, apart from you, Louis, because you just sort of started just before last Gallifrey. That's why we didn't have it on the podcast. Right. So how have you found that your podcast has grown since the early days up to where you are now then?
Well, you know, there's a lot of trial and error. That's for sure. But what has grown is I've been like, you know, listening to our conversations, recording them, and editing them all down. And then like going through 3 hours every week of your friend and your own voice. And going, I say too much. Neil says this too much, and you know, honestly, Tara says fuck too much.
Take the clean tag off now.
Yeah, so I've learned how to like, okay, maybe she shouldn't say fuck too much. But you know what? I can edit that a little bit, but I'll leave a couple of fucks in. So yeah, so it's really just basically just taking all of our, you know, silly conversations, sifting it through and boiling it down, and whatever's left, that becomes a podcast. So what you see, or what you hear on the podcast, is absolutely the best of our 3-hour conversation on a Sunday morning. So that's pretty much it, and it's grown from that.
Well, you raise a point. I mean, how much, this is open to anyone here, how much do you actually edit your conversations? Are there edits at all, or do you talk them? Like,
Best advice I ever had came from Chris from Starro,
right?
Who just said to me, if you've got to do editing, don't. So basically we don't edit.
Right.
It's just all the crap's in. And we can swear, can we?
Yeah.
Well, no.
We already have.
We leave all the shit in.
Right.
We just gently scrape the pure filth out. Leaving the pink underbelly.
You said swear. You said swear, not gross.
The aristocrat.
What about anybody else? How do you approach the editing task?
I think it's mainly just trimming down all the pregnant pauses in there and the ums and ers, and there's also disasters that I have with cats that jump all over the place and knock things over. So it's just kind of trimming out the fluff.
Tony Galashaw keeps that in.
Yeah.
That's half the podcast. So subjective. Dee, you're going to say something.
When I go to edit our podcast, there's a lot of pauses and ums, and that's most of what I edit out. Every now and then there'll be... There I go! See, I can't talk about that.
I think like this.
Don't worry, they're limited out.
We do a lot of of sketches and plays and sort of comedy things. Oh, cheers! And so we've got quite a few fluffed lines that we edit out, but also we've got a member of our group who doesn't quite understand that people can't see him. So he does a lot of sort of mime and things like that. So we maybe need to edit out things where it just sort of sounds like this. But yeah, I think the most we've edited down was we did a quiz episode recently, which we'd recorded at about an hour and a half and went down to maybe 25-30 minutes. So yeah, that's quite a lot of stuff. We need to do an outtakes reel, maybe.
No, we don't actually. We're pretty much the same way. We hit record, or hopefully we hit record. one time we talked about an hour and a half, and then realized that we hadn't recorded any of it.
Hang on for a second.
Yeah. If you're starting on podcasting, I think the very first piece of advice is hit the record button, and then we just keep the mute button on hand because I have dogs, so that at one point or another, one of my dogs has been on the podcast barking. But other than that, we pretty much start and then finish.
How did you all decide on what format you're going to take? Because I mean, there are a lot of podcasts out there. So what did you feel that you needed to do to sort of differentiate yourself from the existing crop that were already out there? Again, anyone.
I think that we felt that there were a lot of podcasts out there that are dealing with current news and events and discussing the most recent episodes that have just been broadcast, and we just decided that we're going to go and just jump around the episodes that have been broadcast in the past and talk about those.
Ours was a couple of things, really. Firstly, we listened to a few podcasts, and we seem to find that quite a lot of them tend to get a bit too dissectory. Is that a word? Yes, a little bit too critical. And the problem is, the four Oods, we're all very, very optimistic about Doctor Who. We really, really love it. And we just wanted to sort of do a podcast that was like, yes, come on, it's better than anything else on TV. But then, of course, we thought, okay, well, we can't just blow sunshine up Moffat or RTD's bums all day. So we better do something that kind of makes it, amber solare enema, we sometimes call it. But there is one thing that not a lot of people do, and that is songs and comedy. So we thought, well, hey, we love to write, and I love to sing, so let's do a little bit of that. And that's what we decided to do. How we got into it, I was auditioning for a musical, and we found we had a backing track spare. And so, we shoved it in there, and then we discovered the joy of Foley. And then, so it was all punching lettuces and making squelchy, farty noises. And then it was great. The Sabine episodes are brilliant.
Well, I like Big Finish, and I like talking about Big Finish. Can we talk about Big Finish?
We're the same way about Doctor Who. We did decide that we didn't want to be dissectory, although there's a fair amount of that. But more in terms of coming from a place of love for the program and carrying it on from there. So, I think one of your Oods described us as a sober examination of the show, which we always joke because sometimes we're actually drunk. But for us it was partially doing recaps of episodes at the same time as going into what parts worked, what parts didn't work for us personally. And, hopefully people find that interesting.
I mean, for us, as most of our stories start, we were sitting in the pub, and we just basically decided we're going to do a podcast. The way we sit in the pub and just talk about Doctor Who, we should probably just record that. That'd work. So we thought, well, we've got a computer, we've got a microphone, we have a small plastic sausage called Eduardo. Basically, that's it.
I think we've broken Lou.
Don't touch it, don't touch it.
I don't know where it's been, Lou.
No idea where that's been.
Does anybody have
Any antiseptic?
wipes?
I have photographs.
You know what's funny is like we listened to a few podcasts, and I was like like you, optimistic about Doctor Who, and I really had seen a few local fan clubs that have been around for 20 some odd years or so, And they're full of like really good people who love Doctor Who and really are like passionate about it. But boy, oh boy, you know, the best Doctor Who fan is going to be your worst Doctor Who fan. And what I say by that is like, boy, they love to pick apart their favorite show. And I'm like, why are you so damn negative about a show that you fucking love? So we wanted to be a bit more positive, and that's how we came up with the name of Happiness Patrol. Not just because of the you know, fun little Bing TARDIS episode with Sylvester McCoy's era, but you know, I was like, okay, that's what we want to talk about. We also were like, fandom. You know, fandom's a big deal. I mean, it's what keeps it going. It's really the little engine that's churning and keeps, you know, the buzz going about Doctor Who, which is great, you know. And I'm really surprised that the BBC really doesn't, you know, embrace the podcasting. I mean, we're kind of like, you know, sort of like the sort of, you know, like the bottom of the media barrel, you know, if you want to know, if you really want to know about it. But like, Louis Trapani, I was talking to him about this one day, and I was like, you know, Louis, I love Podshock, but god dang, I can hardly get through one of them because they're so damn long. Because Louis, we do ours sort of like a magazine format and an audio form, and where like you can listen to a little bit, put it away, come back and listen to it a little bit more. And I was thinking, well, that's good. But you know what? I really want to edit down and also make it sort of like 45 minutes, like your average drive time to work.
Right.
And so if you're pissed and it's Wednesday, you got to go to work and you got a project you don't want to do, you know, at least you can get a little happiness as you're driving to work or stuck in traffic. And so for 45 minutes there, hopefully we make you laugh and, you know, and it's a lot of fun and it seems to work. So, and you know, and it's also cool because like, I'm going to toot my own horn for a second here. We were the only podcast when Doctor Who came to Utah to film. And people were like going, oh, where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? We're not real sure, you know. And all this sort of secrecy, hush, hush. We went out there and with our resources. And thank God we had some really cool resources. And we found out where they were going to go. And half of our co-hosts went out there on the road, hunted down Matt Smith and the crew, and we're, you know, got autographs and stuff, and our youngest Leela even got a picture in the sun. So we're very I think that's a good thing. I don't know, but we're very proud of that. That was what page it's on. Yeah. Right. So but we try to keep it light, try to keep it happy, and like I said, we got like correspondents across the U.S. and in England to you know, fill us in and let us know firsthand what's going on. I mean, it's easy to go on like Gallifrey Base and the news pages and things and see what the news is all about. But we don't try to dwell on that as much. But we just sort of put our own input into it and, you know, and how it makes us feel and hopefully entertain people as it gets. So.
What kind of release rate do you all sort of aim for? Like a monthly, weekly, that sort of thing, whenever you can get it out? That kind of thing? I mean, what's your ambition when it comes to that? Anyone again?
You know, I want to tell you something.
Yes,
I was like,
the podcast kind of Blues Bailey.
We do it weekly. That's why I edit. We do it weekly, and people have gotten used to hearing it. Like, right. You know, oh, it's coming out on Tuesday. Oh, it's coming out on Tuesday. If it doesn't come out on Tuesday, if I don't have it edited in time, right. I get emails. Right. I get emails. People are like, "Where's my happiness this week?" Right. I'm like, "I'm sorry, I got stuff to do." But you know, so weekly is what we try to do. But you know, it can change every now and then. Right. We're kind of in the middle of some restructuring right now. You know, it's putting out a weekly podcast is a hard thing. So.
Anyone else? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, we aim for a weekly release. I say aim for a weekly release. It usually ends up being bi-weekly, right? Because someone's ill, or someone can't make it, or someone's working overtime on a Sunday. Because we're always recording a Sunday afternoon. That's the best bit about podcasting. It's an excuse to get drunk on a Sunday afternoon. But you know, it takes about 3 or 4 days to get one out, and there are so many things, like if I'm working nights or something like that, then it might take a bit longer. But it's usually every 2 weeks or so.
Are you a policeman?
What?
Are you a policeman?
What on earth gave you that impression?
I
have a drum chat.
Just push it away.
We usually go for, during the season, we're about a weekly because we do recaps of every episode as they come out. So we'll have watched it by Sunday at least once, probably twice, and then we'll record usually on Mondays During the off season, we've been trying to go through the back catalog and looking at old episodes. We just did Blink. We've also done the Dalek Invasion of Earth and Horror Fang Rock, which I have actually somehow skipped. So I saw that for the first time.
Wow.
I know. It's one of those things. So, so during the off season, we aim for about every other week. Although sometimes it, as you can all know, with life and everything else, it sort of expands.
Well, when the series is on, we go weekly, and when it's not, we go bi-weekly because we run out of stuff to say. And then we just end up doing really, really weird things like sort of game shows and stuff like that. In the format of Shooting Stars, for anybody who's in the UK and knows Shooting Stars. I was going to do a pub sing around, but it didn't really work. Anyway, yeah, weekly. And so that means that editing can be a bit of a nightmare when you think about how much I said that we chopped down from when we chopped down before. Sometimes Chris is up till 3 in the morning. And sometimes even later than that. Which is great, because it means it comes out sort of early morning here.
Well, I have to ask about that, because when the Matt Smith series was on, you were pretty much churning them out on every Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah.
And that we usually contained 1 or 2 sketches and a song, and an actual or 2 songs, and sometimes an analysis of either by you or your dad. How did you do it? Because that sounded like an insane amount of work to do that weekly.
I don't know. I suppose it's just we really, really enjoy it. I mean, we had a couple of hiatuses because, well, Chris proposed when we were supposed to be editing. What happened was I was looking for a sketch. I was looking for a sketch. It's the one with the stripping agency. And I couldn't find the email that had the sketch in it. But I thought, oh, okay, well, maybe Chris has sent it in a different folder. And I opened one that was to his best friend, and it said, I'm going to go and buy a ring. And I was like, what ring? And so then we had to pause so we could go and buy said ring. Oh, yeah. To delay it, but other than that, no, we just worked on it most nights, and we had lots and lots of fun trying to sing because we've got 2 very small babies living underneath us, and when I do opera, they don't like it very much. But anyhow, go for it.
Well, we just try and do it bi-weekly. It gives us enough time really to do the editing, and also since we're a review-based podcast, it gives us enough time to watch the episode, watch the commentary, watch the info text, watch the extras, basically doing all that research before we get down and start talking about it.
Research.
My podcast, we review the Big Finish audios that came out that month, so we're just monthly, which is really nice because I'm very lazy and I do not see how people do weekly or bi-weekly. I don't get that, but yeah, we come out once a month, so we're not that often.
Well, it's admirable to sort of set the pace, though. I think in the past podcasts are sort of like just steamroll out of the gate and say, "Wow, this is fun," and then they think they could do 2 or 3 a week or a month or something like that. And then the reality sort of sets in. So how do you pace yourself? Do you ever feel like you're getting like podcast burnout at all, and thinking, "Oh God, we have to do another podcast," that kind of thing? No, is it fun?
As soon as you think that, you should stop.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. The only reason to do it is because you enjoy doing it. If you don't enjoy it, stop. Because it will show. It will show. It will really show.
I think the show is so great as a subject for a podcast because it's continually, it's about renewal and regeneration, very literally. So the fact that there's always something new to hook you and carry you forward, I think, is almost makes it easy to do podcasts about it because it's continually amazing and going new directions. Right. So I agree. I think if at a certain point you get burned out on it, then definitely don't do it.
I'm going to sound like somebody on the Oscars now, but we couldn't do it without the fans. At this point, I want to give a big shout out to Draculasaurus here in the front row. This chap listens to every podcast, and he puts lovely, positive comments on them. And when you do get good feedback, it gives you such a boost, and it really makes you want to keep going. So thank you to anybody who's ever commented or put a review on iTunes. It's really so good of you. It spurs us on. Thank you.
Let's ask some tech talk then. People want to know, how do you actually physically record your podcasts? on what like equipment and programs and such like that, because that's what whenever people talk to me, they go, "What do you record?" That sort of thing. It seems to be a common enough question. So anyone, so long as we have the technical people on here. Oh, right there for some reason on that. Laura, yeah, your eyes just completely What kind of gear do you all use? Starting down the table. Go for it, please.
I have a cheap microphone that I've had for years, and the name is rubbed off on it, so I don't know what type of microphone it is. And I don't know. We record over Skype, and I have a program, Callgraph, that records the entire conversation, and then I edit it down in Audacity because I'm cheap.
Yeah, we record both ends of the conversation on Skype. So I record my side of the conversation, and Fox records his side of the conversation. Microphone-wise, I've got a Blue Yeti, which is way, way, way too sensitive. So I'm going to try a Blue Snowball for the next one. Then editing down Audacity, yeah, nice cheap program. Everyone else, it seems to use it. Yeah.
I don't have a Blue Yeti, but I do have a Green Godzilla. No. That was rubbish. I've got a list. So if anybody is genuinely interested,
Wow, I didn't actually practice this.
we've got a Samsung. We've got a set of Samsung C03s. They've got a variable pickup pattern. So they can be directional and record one person, or omni, so they can record loads of people, which is really handy for things like doing Foley. If you want to record the sound of somebody running around a room, you can do that. If you've got a large enough room, we've got lots of sofas in the way, so it's more somebody falling around a room. And they're also got a figure of 8, so when you're starting out, it's really handy because it means you can double up and both use one mic, which is what we did for the first season. We've got a Tapco board because we all record in the same room together and it all feeds in and we can balance the levels. That's quite necessary because one of us is a stage actor! The other one of us is very sensitive. And we use Roland leads and pop shields. I think pop shields are quite important because otherwise you get... And we use GarageBand on the edit, because that's the one thing that I can use and it's really easy. And we've also got a USB mic which we just use to plug in and play, and it's really, really simple to operate. Sound effects, we use Soundtrack Pro, and we are hosted on Bluehost.com, and also big shout out to Blueberry because they have the plugin that makes WordPress work for hosting podcasts. And that's everything.
I think we use. I just use my Skype headset. I don't know what version it is. We record off the computer and use Callburner for recording. That's it.
Wavepad and Mixpad.
Oh, Wavepad and Mixpad for mixing. I've been told by my technical.
No idea what I am. We just basically, we're lucky enough to all live fairly close together, so we record on one mic. We started out using a Blue Snowball, but because it's only front-facing recording, we had to literally sit like that. Then we got a Blue Yeti because it is omnidirectional, so we can at least sit far enough away not to be in each other's armpits.
Because that would stink.
Yeah. So, well, you know, it's so funny because, like, being a musician and, like, this young lady here, I've got a lot of mics and stuff for my band and everything, and I was like, I want to do this podcast, right? I don't want to go out and buy a lot of equipment because, like the young lady down there, I'm also very cheap.
Yeah.
So basically what I do is I have my little board, I have my laptop, and we have our Skype. We Skype in. Everybody Skypes in to the computer. I have a line out from the computer to the board. And from the board, I run out and to, down on this little Zoom H2. And it's really great because I just plug it in, make sure it's recording, you know, push twice, right? And so instead of recording on the computer, I actually save the resources on the computer for the Skype. Because Skype was, when we were starting, it's gotten a lot better. But before, it was really iffy. So, and it was funny because Dale in Brighton, his Skype signal would be just wonderful, like he was in the room with me. Right. And the girls over in Utah and Albuquerque was like, I mean, what the hell's going on there? Why can't I hear them as good? So we basically, I know Tara uses a Snowball, which seems to be a very popular mic.
I think it's the official podcast mic.
Yeah, and so we edit. We got that. The computer is all Skype, and then the H2 is all our little brain for recording. So that's the way we do that, and we just edit down on Adobe Sound Booth, which came with my CS4 Adobe production bundle. So that's pretty much it. And then hosting it, we just go up to a blog spot, and we actually host our the files on the Internet Archive because it's free. I mean, I would love to have a really nice web page, but you know what? This works for me, and I'm not going to screw with it. I'm just going to keep recording and let it go. So it works fine in that way.
How do you all go about sort of, promoting yourselves or sort of building your listener base? What kind of avenues you sort of go down for that? Might as well go down the side of the table here.
I love Twitter. And I also try to post, when we have a new episode come out, on the Big Finish forums and LiveJournal a little bit, and yeah. The internet is amazing.
Marketing, that's something that we really probably should...
It's the next on the list of the things we need to do. We haven't quite figured out how to cut a good promo.
Certainly being part of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance has helped. Adam has set up a great site there for...
Adam Purcell, everybody, set up the website.
He set up a great site, so every podcast that's in the Alliance, whenever it gets published, you get it pushed out onto the front page of the DWPA website, and also it goes out to a Twitter feed, so anyone who's following that can see when something new is out there, and that's great, and it's helped us get some exposure. As far as other marketing goes, well, that's still a work in progress. Hopefully this, being at this convention here and speaking to everyone here now, the word might get out. Hopefully.
Okay, well, I'd say probably when we started out, it was mainly friends and family who were listening, because they love us and nobody else did. But then, the Doctor Who podcast, some of whom are in the room right now, give us a wave if you are. They very kindly, thank you. They very kindly invited me on to do a little guest spot with the lovely Tom Matter, that is his real name, who I did a little chat with, and then I was, or rather Chris and I were invited to do a 2-minute Time Lord slot with the lovely Chip. Where's Chip? Are you here, Chip? Chip was here.
He might be close.
He bailed. He totally bailed.
Everybody knows he did. Everybody knows he did. Everybody knows how good he is. Anyway, so that really, really helped. But every week, Christopher will go on the Chip! So if anybody doesn't listen to 2-Minute Time Lord, find it. It's perfect. It's perfect. Anyway, so Chris will do a lot of promoting for us. Late nights, jet lag. Promoting for us on Twitter and other things like that. But also, if you haven't heard us, we've got these CDs, we're going to be giving them out at the door. They've got a sample of season 2, they've got our album, they've got cartoons that we produce for our website.
Yes, it is.
And Chris has got some, so do take them from him. They're free, obviously. And you might like it enough to listen to the rest of them.
Fabulous. They're fabulous.
And that's this lady. $20.
I've written love poems to you. I'm that one.
Marketing. It's a good idea. No, we do Twitter, we do Facebook. We've also harangued our friends and family into listening and made them tell us they listened to the whole thing. And here, obviously, in Ribbons, which we'll be handing out later. So the usual methods. And we've joined the Dr. Who Podcast Alliance recently.
When we first started up, we basically went on Twitter and pretended to be all the other podcasters' friends. Pretty soon, we realised though, don't really care about marketing or how many listeners we get. That really doesn't mean anything to us. We do it because we enjoy it. I couldn't give a shit how many listeners.
A true artist. Starving but true. Promotioning. The Doctor Who Alliance, Podcast Alliance, is amazing. It's a great resource. It really is. And when I found it, I was like, how do I get on there? I gotta hook up with these guys. A few more listeners, you know. And but basically, we do Facebook. Every time I publish, every week I go out on Facebook and go, hey guys, here it is. And that goes to our Twitter account. And then I upload it, of course, and put a little blog out on our blog spot, which is kind of like our headquarters type sort of thing. But as far as like other marketing and stuff, when you come to events like this is where you do it. Right. And also, like, we got a few cards, little artwork from our friends of ours. So, and I, go out to locally in Orlando, different comic book shops and stuff like that, because the comic book scene mixes in quite well, because these are the sort of people that will like go out and search for.
I think we're missing a free comedy show.
And it's great. But once again, the Podfather is the coolest guy in the world. Twitter is so amazing simply because everybody seems to be just on it, But I get kind of antsy about like people following me. So I get these things. I'm like going, so and so is following you now, and I'm like going, God, I hope this is not another prostitute. So, I have a folder and I just stick all the Twitter people into my Gmail folder, and I just, I let Tara take care of the Twitter stuff because she's better at it than I am. So.
I find it kind of cool, actually. We have 6 different people from 6 different podcasts, and there are pretty much, you've gone through unique ways of recording and marketing everything. I think it's really neat how you all come from different approaches, yet you're producing a show about the show that you love, and I think it's really neat. How about we open it up to the floor for some questions? If anybody has any questions, we have one right from there, from Andre Tessier. Hello, Andre.
Hey, how's it going?
Not bad.
My question is quite simple. What the hell is it with Doctor Who podcasters and cats?
Adorable. Everybody loves cats.
Every single Doctor Who podcast, 90% of them at least, seem to have a cat or a cat attacking the microphone.
You're listening to too much Tony Gala show.
Said cat.
I don't own a cat. No pets in my house.
Doctor Who fans and OCD.
Well, we don't have a pet. We've got Andy. If you wave some string at him, he'll go for it.
Well, my cat's my daughter. Okay. I don't give a damn what the hell y'all think. Gives you my love, and if she wants to like jump up on my lap or onto the computer while we're recording, so be it. Sometimes I leave it in, sometimes I edit it out.
I think it's basically because cats look after themselves.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything with a cat. You don't have to walk it or nothing. You just feed it occasionally. And it's fine.
Once you get the cat show started.
We're lazy.
Okay. Quick question. With the show, with your shows, how long was it till you thought, I think I'm going to be happy with this? Not that you got it, but like, was it the first show, or like, did you actually reject the show or something? Like, we're not going to put that out. Like, how long did it take before you thought, this is, I like this. This is what I want it to be?
When I first had this crazy idea to have a podcast, you see, I had a lot of crazy ideas all the time, and usually nothing happens with them, which is probably a good thing. So when I said to Liz, let's have a Big Finish podcast, I expected nothing to happen, and then we had an idea, and I was like, okay. And then when we actually recorded, I thought our friends might listen to this, maybe. But then people who I didn't even know were following us on Twitter and listening, and I was like, well, that's crazy. And so it was really just, we've probably lasted this long just because we've met a lot of people through it, and people seem to like us, so I guess, I don't know, it really is, like you were saying earlier, the fact that people like us, that makes us enjoy doing it, and yeah. I'm gonna be quiet now.
Yeah, I guess, I'm not sure if I've been fully happy with anything that we've done yet. I mean, it's just it's a working. I'm happy with it, but I'm not completely happy with it. And I think if you're completely happy with it, then you don't stop. You stop trying. But yeah, we're just. So it's just a. I get myself in deeper here or something. No, it's just a work in progress, and I mean, we're still learning. I mean, we've only done 12 episodes now, so we're still finding our feet, but we're still enjoying ourselves, so that's the main thing.
And we get to watch a lot of Doctor Who, which is a bonus.
Yeah. Season 2, episode 4 was when we thought, yeah, that's all right. Season 1 was recorded in one day with quite a lot of wine, and back to back, and then we just spoke, and by the end of it we weren't really speaking coherently. That's rather a feature actually of my life. But the episode that I just mentioned, we decided we would do a sketch about the really ridiculous Deus Ex Machina at the end of in the End of Time Part 2, the crazy little booze thing.
Glass thing.
You know, why? What was the point of that? How was it logical in any way? It wasn't. So we thought we'd do a little bit of a deconstruction of that. From the minds of two Himbochi scientists. And I think that's probably when we thought, hey, we've written something that was relatively amusing. Let's go for it, let's do it like this. And that was when we found our feet, I think.
Yes, I remember that sketch. It was awesome.
Yes, thank
you. I think we're still finding our feet. I think there are a couple episodes that haven't seen the light of day and never will see the light of day. Ever. We deleted those, right? And please tell me we deleted those. I think part of it is just you do it enough times, and I think the secret is, if you start a podcast, is just to keep doing it. James Moran has a great piece on his blog talking about if you want to be a writer, just start writing. And it'll come. Your views or your talent or whatever it is will eventually get to it, and you'll get better at it. You're never going to be good the first time you do it. And the first time you listen to yourself, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to go beyond this point? But everyone does. Everyone has their first go at it. So, I think just keeping at it, and hopefully people will listen, and hopefully what you have to say is interesting, and it'll spread from there.
With us, in terms of actually putting the show out and editing that, it probably took about 15, 16 episodes before we got to a point where we thought, right, now this is what we want to do. But actually recording the thing, I think it was 4 minutes before because we started recording the first one. It was, hello, I'm Paul, hello, I'm Chris, and you're listening to it, and then we just shut it up and thought, that sounds too professional. So we decided we would just get really pissed and talk.
That's very nice. I don't know. I mean, it is a work in progress. It's always a work in progress, and you're always trying to outdo the one that you did before. And that's what I'm listening to. And I listen to like a few podcasts, and I go, wow, that's really good. Like 2-minute time words. I love it. Love it. It's one of my favorites. Yeah. And I listen to that. But it's really interesting because like somebody said that there's some